Some OC. Until recently, I worked as an investigator for a major auto insurance company. I worked in office 100% of the time, no going out into the field. We document everything said on a call like our lives depend on it. My job is to learn more about what happens in accidents, if there's a special issue related to the contract, time, and life if you made your payment and got into a collision on the same day. Possible fraud indicator, or maybe just bad luck. I have had tons of uninteresting paranormal stories from callers. I got into the accident because my car is cursed. My car has been replaced with an identical car by the CIA. But this one really sticks out to me because of the way the company handled it. New file to me. Single vehicle comprehensive claim, vandalism, occurring within 55 days of policy adjustment. Basically just need to learn whether these damages that are being claimed occurred before subject modified his policy for a better deal on the damages. Easy peasy, just need a police report or timestamped photos of damages. PH reports scratch marks all over car, mostly on roof. Weird, but think nothing of it. Office pace moves at lightning speed. If you stop to think, you fall behind. And my type A ass is going to hit every KPI like my life depends on it. Call PH for recorded interview. He picks up right away. Good sign. Older white guy. We'll call him Jim. Go over the reason for my call. He's cooperative and receptive, but I can tell he's nervous as fuck. This isn't unusual. RI goes normally. He says that someone scratched the shit out of his car, states he called law enforcement out to the scene, and that they're going to provide him with a police report. Wrap up, RI. Do my closing statement. Is there anything else you want me to know about what's happened in the incident that my questions didn't directly address? Long pause. No. I know that kind of long pause. Something else is going on here. But it's not relevant to coverage, so I don't probe. Wrap up the RI. No further questions. Tell Jim I stopped recording the interview. I hear him tense up a bit. That wasn't the whole story, Anon. Fucking shit. You've got to believe me. I didn't want to say this on the interview because they would hike my rates. Duh. But it's not teenagers. It's something out there. At night. I've seen them my whole life. They followed me all the way out from the West Coast. Lost state is West Virginia. This took place in a town so small, I can't see his house on Street View. They killed my dog, and they've been all over my house. They're trying to get in. They can't get in if you lock the door, though. He's talking really quick. I document PH reports someone been trying to break into his house, and I ask him if he told the police about this. He says he did. Our calls are monitored for quality, so I stay polite and do what I can to wrap the call. Do you believe me, Anon? Tell him, sure thing, man, sorry to hear about that. Share file with my team. Whenever anything funny pops up, we stick it in our group chat. Save the claim number for later review. My work here is done. We just need pics and the PR to wrap investigation. Send Anchor to call him back in 3 days for the docs. Don't think about this until later that week because I'm buried in harder, more important work. Time to call Jim back. Check the file notes. Jim called in, and a teammate picked up. IBC from PH. PH advised further damage to Otto. Otto non-drivable. PH advised needs coverage investigation expedited. Just needs to be able to leave. Check file docs. PR is virtually empty. Just has time and date that police were contacted. Body text is along the lines of, complainant reports vandalism of vehicle and home. Officer Doctry dispatched to scene. BWC activated. Damage to vehicle and residence. Check photos. I wish I had sent these photos to myself somehow in retrospect. We dealt with a lot of personal info in office, so all communications external to the company were monitored, and we can't even have our phones out at our desks where we work, so I couldn't snap any pics. If I tried, I would have to talk to management. And again, type A, so just focus on promotion. It's a shame. Photos are pretty out there. Just like Jim said, damage all over his car. Some of the scratches go into the actual car body, so someone was putting effort into them, not just using a key. OSIU thinks that this means Jim took a tool to his own car, but he doesn't stand to gain anything by doing so it's not a fraud indicator unless he's trying to total out the vehicle and he's desperate to have it fixed. Jim sent tons of photos, which isn't unusual for older customers. We've got photos of scratches on his windows and door, and a bunch of pictures that just look like the woods surrounding his house. Photos take a fucking year to open up on our computers. If I open one up and it's just trees, I close it immediately. Just try to find pics of his car. Rename all photos to Rear QP Damage 1, Rear QP Damage 2, Woods 1, Woods 2, Woods 3, and etc. I submit my recommendation for coverage to RLC. It gets approved by my soup and sent to legal. 3 days pass. No longer thinking of Jim. Just thinking about the hundreds of other files that I have to work where people are injured and stranded, etc. Recommendation returned. Coverage approved. Congrats, Jim. Open file. More calls from Jim. PH calling into inquiry status of coverage review. Advance in progress. It's your lucky day, Jim. We can fix your car. Call him back. Straight to voicemail. Leave voicemail. Sent email advising of the same. Forget about Jim until next follow-up. Straight to voicemail. Leave voicemail. No inbound calls from Jim in the notes. Weird because he was so urgent about finishing everything. But it wouldn't be the first time a customer has just lost interest. Week passes. Time for next follow-up. Send Jim a letter and let him know to call me whenever he wants his car fixed. Forget about Jim again. Take inbound call from local PD unit in Jim's town. They provide me with his policy number and inquire what he said about the incident. Pause. This is pretty unusual. Usually only happens for a hit and run. Get permission from Soup to advise Jim's facts of the incident. Choose to omit the part where he talks about evil little gremlins trying to eat his skin, because I'm a professional and just interested in getting back to my real work. Still, this is setting off alarm bells. Police ask, is that all he had to say? Well, can't hurt to report the whole truth. I advise that the PH reports a fear of nighttime intruders and that they killed his dog. PD ask if they send any photos to the file and demand that we share them. Ask, why? This is very non-standard. PD advised this is now a missing persons investigation. They request supervisor contact info. Provided. I am now interested in this file and check back on it regularly. Figure Jim is probably on drugs. 2 type A for cryptid ET bullshit. Check file notes. Only notes are from my supervisor now. IBC from PD, NFC with PH. Shared photos with PD after legal approval. Catch up with my soup about it. He says we've done what we can to help. It's in the law enforcement's hands now. Check file a month later. Still no payments issued out to Jim, or contact from him. Only notes in file are from a regional legal associate, which is up the ladder for me. Whack. File notes are long, and I'm having a hard time parsing all of them, because they use acronyms I don't know. Don't take it up with my soup, because I can't afford to bother him with month-old files, when there are people who need our help immediately, 24/7. Okay, this is where it gets really weird. Everything so far is normal. I have had other calls like this where it's just someone going nuts. This is why this file is different. Go to check file and break. Interested in the pics that Jim sent in. Want to see what local PD is so eager to have. The photos for the vehicle damage are still in the file, but the pics I relabeled Woods 1, 2, and 3 are all gone. Sit up straighter in my office chair. Pics are never deleted, unless they're nudes that a customer sent in by mistake. And even for those, you have to get RLC approval to delete for quote-unquote nudity or irrelevance to the claim. I can't stress enough that photos are almost never removed. Our files are full of memes and unrelated text conversations, because insureds fat finger their phones when trying to share evidence. But Woods 1 through 10 are gone. Check notes for RLC notation. Nothing. We have gone off procedure for this for some reason. My future CEO spider sense is tingling. Someone did something against code of conduct here. Oh, and no further contact from Jim. Huh. Don't raise the issue with my soup because I can't afford to look like I'm obsessed with the little gray man file. Have gotten flack for getting fixated on files before. Non-supernatural. Close file and get back to work. End of business. Go home for weekend. Sincerely spooked. Not at whatever's happened to Jim, but because my precious evidence has been deleted from my perfect file. Write down the file number and Jim's policy number on sticky note, so that when I'm promoted down the line, I can access it from the archive and see just what went on. And now comes the part I really hate. Monday, first break rolls around. Look up Jim's file. No matching claim number found. What? Claims are never deleted for any reason. Duplicate files are closed down but remain accessible. This never happens. I can see other claims on Jim's policy, just not this one. Again, just have to stress how this never happens. I have worked files that have been connected to ongoing criminal investigations for murder, domestic violence, other sensitive subjects. They do not just go missing. They are our work product. They are everything to us. Contact Soup. Advised I was looking for the RLC submission template I'd used for the CC55 on Jim's file, while working a similar case, and could not find the file anywhere. He asked whether I was putting in the right claim number. Showed him that I have Jim's policy number, and can pull other files from his policy history, but not the most recent one. Soup advised that Regional Legal has been handling that one for a while, and that he hasn't followed up on it since passing it up the ladder. Soup advised he would check with management and see if he could find out where the file went. Never comes back up in my time working there. I'm not with the company at this time, or I would try to find more to share with you guys, or post my badge for proof. I moved away from where I used to work, and I'm doing more higher ed. The local PD that were calling me didn't act like any other cops that I'd ever talked to, and they sure had Regional Legal in the file really fast. This has all been on my mind with the disclosure stuff, of course. Stay safe and professional out there. Jesus. Any ideas or theories what happened to Jim and what was haunting his ass? No clue what was bothering him, and I prefer not to speculate. I wasn't an auto damage expert, so I couldn't tell the difference between someone backing into a fixed object or striking a car with a baseball bat. What I can say is that they were ugly deep scratches all over the car and on the windows of his house. 2 stories. Scratches on the door, but no sign of forced entry. He had a long driveway with no nearby neighbors and no listed family members to contact. I checked prior claims on his policy, and I found no unusual activity. Just your standard struck parked vehicle and the like. No prior reports of vandalism on his vehicle, and he was a long-term policy holder, so it's a shame that we lost his business. What really bothers me is that the claim was removed by someone. I worked hard on that. Stuff moved so fast that we were encouraged to only spend time on active matters. I got my productivity points for finishing the investigation, and if Jim went missing, well, that would be a concern for local police. We would only consider a wellness check for him if he were still part of an active matter, or if someone else were making a claim against Jim's policy and needed their car taken care of. Not worth green texting, but I'll share some spooky shit. In Northern Ontario, I found a cleanly severed, fresh moose head. Looked like it had only been there for an hour or 2, tops. Nothing in Ontario is big or strong enough to take a moose's head. Moose is king. No hunter in their right mind would leave that behind either, so it's very odd. Another time, I was riding my sled through a trail in the woods, and I came to a clearing at the edge of a lake, with the lake to the left and an offshoot pond to the right. On the frozen pond was a pack of wolves, absolutely decimating a deer. They stopped and stared at me before continuing on with their business. I was only about 50 feet away from them, and if they wanted to, they could have added me to their dinner plate. That one was truly pants shit worthy. Sometimes, when I'm outside at night, and it's particularly dark, I'll get whistled at, and it's a very familiar one that my family used to call my dogs back. I thought it might be my neighbor. They have dogs, but nobody is ever outside when it happens. Accidental demon summoning. Be Christian. Get very high and drunk tonight. Blood red half moon. That's a fucking bad omen. End up finding funny picture of baby mannequin for CPR by way of friend. Decide to make a picture of it being a Halloween sacrifice. Decide to Photoshop the baby in such a scene. Try to draw a pentacle on ground. Cannot. Pentacle doesn't fit right. Try to draw a pentagram instead. Failed to entirely. Decide to Photoshop Pentagon drawing the right way. Then proceed to Photoshop the baby in the center. Now for the candles. I decided to use Minecraft's jack-o'-lantern, which has 6 sides. Then, I decided to decorate the baby. Had to Photoshop the pentacle onto the baby. Then, I decided to cover it in blood. First from the eyes, then from the mouth. Then I decided to scrawl Liber Pater into the baby's crotch area. Decided to decorate its right leg with Solve and left with Coagula. Decided to inscribe AVE on the right arm and Satanus on the left. Proceeded to then draw a fucking pentagram on the baby's chest, and the blood color I had now switched to. I, beforehand, could not draw a pentagram. It just didn't click. But now I did it. Get close to the screen to chuckle at my vandalism of the baby's nether regions. I said under my breath in an eager tone, Liber Pater. Oh fuck, Jesus. Proceed to pray to Jesus 3 times. Shit pants a little. Did I just fucking summon a demon? And what do I do? Help. Update from Accident Demon Summoning. It's the OP from the previous thread here. I think I accidentally summoned a demon, and I think it possessed me. And now what's going on I can only describe as an autoimmune system suicide bombing, but with spiritual matters instead of physical matters. I've noticed my inhibitions have gone down considerably. Like, I'm less lazy wholesale, but also more willing to, for entirely satirical example, commit petty crime. For example, I did not notice some vandalism of a lamppost near where I live that says, "Come," and realizing that it was probably scrawled by a local furry that I knew, and also hated. And then I did not go to the lamppost to scrub out the vandalism. And then I did not write over it the docs of a local furry, who I personally know is a pedophile and a zoophile. Like, this was a particularly brazen thing to do for me. Keep in mind this entire paragraph is fiction and is not based on any real-life events. Any resemblance is coincidental. I'm also really starting to hate myself for being gay. Like, suicidal levels of hating myself. I want to put a knife into my gut for it and rip out all my intestines. Shit's feeling really fucked up for me. Just stop being gay. Early 2000s. Be a young lad, 12 years old, staying with grandparents in Ohio. Grandpa and I spend a morning in town, running errands, picking things up for Christmas dinner, visiting the barbershop, etc. As we're out, it starts to really come down. Heavy snowfall. Freak storm. Grandpa says we'll have to cut our day short. Head back to the house where Grandma is waiting for us. On the way, we spot a figure on the side of the road, walking in the opposite direction. Grandpa can't in good conscience let the guy walk in this weather. Stops and asks if he need a lift, but he stops mid-sentence. Shoots me a concerned look, then asks the man to get in. Guy climbs into the back seat. He's a big guy, for you, with a huge beard and a 1,000-yard stare. He also stinks like shit. Grandpa whispers at me not to stare and physically forces my head forward. We drive for a while. The guy is stinking up the entire car, and Grandpa and I are holding our breath when, suddenly, the smell is just gone, and Grandpa busts a U-turn quickly. Confused, I'm fighting the urge to look back. Grandpa tells me it's fine, I can look. The man is gone. I turn and I'm hit with a megaton of what the fucks. The bearded guy has disappeared. Ask Grandpa who that was. He says, it's best to not talk about it. And by his tone, I can tell he means that I should clam up. So, I do. As we pass the spot where we picked up the stinky bearded guy, I see another figure by the side of the road. My skin crawls and I think, it's the same guy. Even though the snow is so bad that I can't see who it is. Grandpa accelerates a bit. We barrel right past the person. Don't say a word until we get home. I asked him about this a few times before he died, and he would always say he would explain it sometime, but he never did. Dumb conspiracy theories that are probably 100% true. I'll start. YouTube purposefully makes the default homepage intolerably awful to encourage people to sign in so they can collect more accurate data. Your turn. Okay. 4chan is run by the Fed, either directly or through a shell company, and it's all for data mining, for blackmail collection and grooming domestic terrorists the same way that the security groomed Islamic terrorists in the 2000s to justify expansion of the security state. Think about it. 4chan was never profitable. That's why Moot sold it. By my estimates, a website as big as 4chan would cost $100,000 to $500,000 a year to run, and it's a money black hole. A Japanese businessman buys it just because, even though it's constantly losing money. I looked it up and his net worth has been around $5 million US ever since buying 4chan. It did not go up or down. The fact that he made 2chan is just to lend it some credibility, and him being Japanese makes it less likely that people will, or can, look into it. Also, I tried to make a thread about it here and on poll, and Janny's deleted it. Coincidence? Hey X, old ass Anon here. I've been looking for a while, and most of your stories make me chuckle, but there's one that I've got that might shake up some of y'all. Back in the 90s, I was a whole different beast. East LA was my playground, and I got some stories that would make your grandma clutch her rosary. Anyway, grab a drink, or whatever you guys do nowadays, and let me take you back to the night that changed everything for me. Be me, young and dumb, 17, mid-90s, on the streets with my crew, Lil Spooky, Joker, and Sleepy. Just scored one over a rival gang, feeling invincible. Fucking East LA nights, man. The air's thick with that smell of victory. Actually, it was smog. Riding in our lowrider, the bass thumping so hard, you would think it's an earthquake. Homies are hyped, the adrenaline is still buzzing, but thirsty as fuck. Let's hit up the old Bodega on 5th, Joker says, scratching his neck. That place has got some fucked up stories. Look over at Sleepy. Can see that he ain't too keen either. Man, you know the stories about that place. Lil Spooky just smirks. Ghost stories are for little bitches. Can't look soft in front of them, so we pull up. Flickering neon sign, and that old school doo-wop shit playing from inside radio. Step in, and the place is real dusty. Old man behind the counter, straight staring like he's seen some shit. For real, looks like he's been there since they invented the wheel. Joker's loud mouth trying to show off, chats up the old man. He remembers being like us back in the 60s. Alright, tell us about the 60s then. Real OG days. Old dude chuckles. Gives that knowing look. Sit. All of you. Starts painting this picture of East LA back in the day. Streets alive with danger and betrayal. Talks about this chick, Rosa. Mad beautiful, but the sister of some dude from a rival turf. Rosa and him, madly in love. But the story ain't no fairy tale. Forbidden romance, dangerous meetings, all of that shit. One night, they both get ambushed. Rosa gets taken back home by her brother and disappears. While he gets a beating he would never forget. Homie's getting restless. Can tell they aren't really feeling the vibes. Lil Spooky stands up. Nice story, but we gotta bounce. Crew starts heading out, but that pic on the wall catches my eye. Old man leans into me. Stay. One more thing. Homies leave. Just me and him now. He points to that old black and white picture. Him, in his prime, next to... Wait, what the fuck? It's my fucking abuela. Heart's racing. This shit ain't adding up. Abuela? Words barely coming out. Dude's eyes get all soft. Life moves in strange ways. Before I could even blink, he's gone. Like, poof. Walk out all dazed. Homie's looking at me weird. You good, Holmes? Just nod. But inside, I'm fucked up. I do remember my abuela's name is Rosalinda. Next day, talk to my abuela. Ask her about her past. I want to see a pic of my abuelo. She tells me stories about the man I never met. Never heard much about him until right now. Abuela tears up, hands me this old photo after looking through some old photo books. Only pic she still has of him. It's the same fucking guy. The same old man from the bodega. She tells me life was rough after he died. Single mom, taking care of my dad, while trying to make ends meet. Her family's disappointed in her, but she made it. Dude died young, only 25. Streets took him. Guess that was the beating he talked about. Realized that was my sign, man. God telling me to quit acting tough and quit before the streets claim me too. That night made me rethink a lot. Gave up the life not long after. There's things out there, things we can't explain. And sometimes, the universe sends you a message, even if it's in a shady store in East LA. Anyways, peace out, y'all. Well, I'm gonna have to say that my grandmother's not clutching her rosary from that story. Because she's fucking dead. She fucking died. She's been fucking dead. Anyway, ooga booga, too spooky for me. Empty Town. Was reading some Empty Town creepypasta, and then a chill ran down my spine. I am probably just off of my meds, but something doesn't sit right. Me, touring with band, Oregon. We played Christian music for churches and toured around, playing shows and sharing the gospel. Worship that wave. We just finished a show, and we were driving to another town to stay for our next gig. We stop in a town to eat, probably around 7 p.m. It's getting dark. Chicken nugs at the Golden Arches. We have another 2-hour drive, so we get moving in a hurry. Everyone's tired, and we want to sleep. We start driving on one of those no gas stations for insert number of miles type of roads. Oh shit, no gas. We had been driving for 40 minutes before realizing we forgot to fill up. Band van, trailer, nearly a dozen people, and instruments. And we were on fumes. Too far to go back. So we step at what appears to be a boarded up gas station. Old pumps, a couple empty houses across the street. Deserted town in the desert. My face when? There's no gas. The sun is set, and we're trying to get cell service to call someone. 0 cars pass by. Empty road. No moon. Everyone is kind of freaking out. Might have to sleep here. Some of the more nervous members are actively praying aloud. Then, headlights. From where we had just driven comes another vehicle who we flagged down. Praise God that JPEG. Guy gets out of his dot truck, pulls out a red can of gas. You guys out? He tops us off enough to get the rest of the way to the next town. We thank him profusely. Then he just gets in his truck, turns around, and goes right back where he came from. This was almost a decade ago now, but I'm just now realizing something was off. Maybe it's just me, but how often do you see these dot trucks? It's probably just something these guys do if schmucks like us get trapped, but that answer still feels lacking. I don't know. Maybe I'm just schizo. Not really a full story, but the old 2-family New England apartment my family lived in was turbo haunted. My older sister and I slept in the same bedroom. At night, while wide awake, I would often hear a woman's voice whispering all around the bed, to the point that I would be in tears calling for my parents. Naturally, I thought my sister was messing with me, so I would watch to see if it was her, but she was always asleep when this happened. If I tried to ignore it, the voice would sometimes whisper my name directly into my ear. This was so consistent that I had to sleep with headphones on, listening to music every night. My family puts me on the fast track to be baptized despite not being in the church for years, and the voice actually stops after getting baptized. My sister later admitted that she was also tormented by the voice, and she thought it was me, but I would be asleep, just like my experience. She just acted tough for me. There was this studio room that was the worst. It had no windows and slanted with the roof on one side, and its door open to the kitchen. I would constantly have nightmares about some being in this room. It was always the same. A malevolent entity speaking to us, threatening my family, and we would leave the apartment, and when I would peek back at floor level from the stairs into the studio, it would be furious. Like whatever it was would jump out of this dark room to kill us. We had an old wood carving portrait of our grandparents hung in the studio room, and one night, there was a loud clattering that made my dog shriek and run from the kitchen under my bed. My parents checked around, but everything seemed normal. All except a wood carving my dad noticed now had a streaking black burn mark, like something had swung a searing hot iron at it, and it was not ink. It wasn't something you could do with your hand or any object. It was like somebody took a hot iron and slashed it at my grandparents' wood portrait a few times. Another night, my family was all supposed to go see a movie, but my dad was asleep on the recliner in the studio when we had to leave. We woke him up and he joked telling us to go see the movies to save some raisinets for him. Tell him how it was, that he's too tired and etc. So we leave to the movie and we get back a couple hours later. I remember when we opened the front door, The house was completely dark. Dad hadn't turned on any lights, even after probably 3 hours. Except, we found him awake, sitting upright in the studio, in nearly complete darkness. I forget what I asked him, but when I went to go give him my leftover candy, something seemed way too off to approach him. I only got a step or two in the studio before stopping. He wasn't listening to what I was saying. His eyes were open, but it was like he was staring through you. Instead, he's just rambling slowly, saying stuff like, "Why did you leave? So this is what you do when I'm not around. So you like going out to parties by yourself, you fucking whore?" And swearing, using F-bombs, and etc. My dad never, ever swore. He's never even drank alcohol. He's this super friendly, funny guy who will bear hug you and drag you hiking, doing bike rides, finding new places to explore. So, my mom pulls me away and says, "Don't talk to your dad, this isn't normal." She tries to talk to my dad, but he just continues, rambling incoherently. The things he's saying don't make any sense. My mom has my aunt come over ASAP, and they both keep trying to talk to Dad, trying to get him to wake up because it's like he's not even awake. Finally, like half an hour later of my sister and I trying to listen through our door, my dad's up. My mom and aunt are grilling him, and he says he doesn't even remember it. Like, he was just stuck in a bad dream. He goes to the bathroom to get ready for bed, and my mom and aunt are saying, "It's like he was possessed. I've never seen him like that before." My aunt stays the night to keep an eye on Dad, and nothing like that has ever happened since. Not paranormal, but be me. Move into a typical American suburban town. Green Meadows, not its real name. Houses all look the same. Perfect green lawns, nice little fences. But my house is different. Not for the roses or anything, but because of my fucking lawnmower. Every morning, I find that shit out of place. One day, it's right in the middle of the yard. Next day, it's playing hide and seek behind the bushes. That's not even the worst part. Sometimes, I would just wake up, suddenly, at 3 a.m. It's the sound of that damn thing roaring to life. I swore it must have been possessed or something. At first, I thought maybe it was some teens or maybe my neighbor Jeff were messing with me. And then, one night, I found out the truth. Sun's going down. There's a dude in my yard. Looks like he walked straight out of a medieval fair. Wild, unkempt hair. Crazy eyes. Wearing this raggedy red cloak. Probably some old blanket. Oh, and he's got a stick. Holding it up like it's some longsword. I'm just watching, thinking, what the actual fuck? Well, at least he ain't here to jack my lawnmower. He's squaring up to it, like it's a wild animal. Yeah, you read that right. Like the lawnmower is about to attack him. Decide to chat up Mrs. Simmons next door. She knows everyone's business. Turns out the dude's name is Delbert. Used to be a professor. Taught about knights and medieval history. Went full schizo a while ago. Folks call him Sir Delbert, the local loon. Says he's the last knight of Green Meadows. He is convinced dragons are real. And to him, my lawnmower is the big bad dragon of the kingdom. Damn. Alright, so I have to do something about this, right? Not gonna lie, found the story pretty funny. But this shit was getting old. Got a wild idea one night. Decided to trick out my lawnmower. Make it even more like a dragon. Hooked it up with a remote control. Slapped on some LED lights. Made the bottom glow. Put it right on the middle of my yard. Waiting for Sir Delbert early the next evening. Heard some rustling. And there he was. Trying to be all sneaky. Start the mower up with the push of a button. Lawnmower revs up from the dark. Headlights glaring. Fake smoke effect I added just for kicks. You would think the guy would shit his pants, but nope. Instead, Delbert's face lights up. Starts yelling, "The dragon is alive!" Waving his stick sword around. He's ready for war. So there I am behind the curtains, driving the lawnmower around with a remote. Making it charge at Delbert, then retreat. Doing some random zigzags. And this dude, I swear, he's ducking, diving, parrying with the stick. Bro starts shouting stuff like, "Face me, beast!" and "You shall not defeat me." Kids from the block started to gather. Half the block is watching. Thought I would spice things up a bit. Hit a Bluetooth speaker in the bushes earlier. Start blasting dragon roars and medieval drum. The crowd's eating it up. Kids are cheering and the adults laughing their asses off. It's like some bootleg medieval theater show right on my front yard. After a while, Delbert's looking exhausted. With one final charge, Delbert throws his cloak over the lawnmower. Celebrates like he's captured it or something. The whole neighborhood just goes wild, clapping and cheering for the hero. Was not how I planned my evening, but definitely was one for the books. After the epic showdown, I felt it was only right to show myself. Walk out of my house and approach Sir Delbert. We shake hands. Dude's hands are rough, probably from all those, dragon battles. You've tamed the fierce dragon of Green Meadows. Doing my best not to chuckle, Delbert takes a dramatic bow. It was my duty. And the best part, after that night, my lawnmower was never messed with again. Sir Delbert seemed to move on. Heard he was chasing goblins in another part of town. But every barbecue, kid's birthday, or block party, someone still brings it up. Remember that time Delbert fought the dragon in a non's yard? Legit, turned into a local legend. And that's the story of how my lawnmower became the most famous dragon in Green Meadows. Me, Chilean, attended same school for about 9 years. School system has 2 years of preschool, followed by 8 years of basic school, followed by 4 years of high school. Mom works in the school, manning a copy machine, and selling stuff on the kiosk. Due to this, she talks a lot with teachers and janitors. Actual real fucking rumor of a graveyard being under the school. Rumors of ghosts as well. So much so that the school owner called a fucking priest to spray holy water all over the campus. School director shared a ghost story with my mother, their childhood friends. He was chilling on the 3rd floor of the building, looking down to the main football court, waiting for the librarian to finish some work late at night. Suddenly, he turns left, and on the railing, next to him, there's a shadow person. Didn't hear them approach, go upstairs, or anything. Shadow friend ignoring him. Tells librarian he's going home, and pretty much sprints out of the building. Mom also had an experience. There are stories of 3 ghosts. A teen female, a child, and a shadow man. Now, for my experience. Alone at night. I'm part of the student council, so I have to stay late sometimes to meet with teachers or parents. Long meeting finally over, about 10 p.m. Go to the students' council office. Summer night. Nice 20 degrees Celsius weather. Stand in front of office door looking for my keys. Suddenly, realize it's fucking cold. Like I can see my breath cold. Feel cold air on my neck. Like something is breathing behind me. Feel like if I turn around, something horrible will happen. Frozen in place for about 20 minutes. Mom finally comes over from the kiosk to see why I'm taking so long. Cold and ghost vanish as soon as I hear her footsteps. I have never ever felt so much relief in my life. And to make matters worse, one of the parents in the parents' council had the exact same experience. He related to me later in a conversation. I never went to that fucking office alone, ever again, after that. Here's mine from 8 years ago. Be me. Live in the Pacific Northwest. Rural town. Lots of dense forests. Always heard crazy local legends growing up about the local pine forest. Strange happenings. Weird lights in the forest. The usual. Most folks think they're just stories to scare tourists and kids. But I think it could be possible. Flash forward to rare family reunion. Big bonfire in the backyard. Everyone's around it. We're all chatting, catching up, telling stories. Night goes on, and everyone's drunk. Elderly uncle who's lived there his whole life tells us to listen up. Starts sharing a story from way back. Dude is hilarious, so when he has one, you listen. Recalls a night that he saw figures in the woods. Not deer or bears. Otherworldly figures with soft lights all around them. Says he kept it a secret till now. Didn't want folks calling him crazy. Can't blame him. Small towns can be brutal with gossip. Some of my cousins calling it bullshit. But it's got me thinking, what if there's some truth to it? Decide I'm gonna investigate myself. Next week. Packing up and buying some essentials. Tent, pricey binoculars, night vision goggles, and an EMF detector, just in case. Plan is just to camp out, see if I spot anything weird, Honestly, expecting to come back with nothing, but it should be fun. Friday afternoon, drive out to the spot Uncle mentioned. Park my car a bit away. Don't want to be too obvious. Start hiking into the dense forest ahead. Find a good spot. Start setting up camp. First night, nothing much happens. Just your typical forest noises, occasional owl hoot. Decide to scout around a bit. Just testing my night vision goggles. Still no sign of anything weird. Sleep's meh. Keep waking up, hoping to see something. Morning comes, pack up, eat some breakfast. Bored.jpg. Man, fuck this shit, I'm just gonna go deeper. Spend the entire day hiking, looking for clues. Find some weird patches of flattened grass. Could be anything, really. Second night rolls. Same shit. Third, fourth, same old story again. Really considering heading back. Fifth night rolls in. But around midnight, I start seeing a soft blinking glow far in the distance. Not like a fire or a lantern. More faint and white. Excited this might be it. Approach slowly, goggles on, trying to stay quiet. Finally, get to a clearing. Still a good enough distance to stay hidden. Sleek, oval craft. Just hovering there, a few feet off the ground. Mesmerizing pulsating lights. See figures around it. Skinny, with kinda glowing skin. Clearly not human. But that's not all. Some dudes in military uniforms, not far from the vessel. They're carrying wooden boxes, metal containers, and weird devices. Talking with beings. They seem weirdly familiar. They all look like buddies. Military guys are even taking the cargo into the craft. Still trying to process all of this. Aliens? Government? Zoom in with my binoculars. Try to get a closer look. And that's when I see it. One of the aliens adjusts its head. I swear it looked like he just broke his neck and put it back. Hands look a bit too human. What? .jpg. Then it hits me. These quote-unquote aliens are just people in some bodysuits. It's a fucking military operation. Keep watching. They all head into the craft and the thing starts rising. Silent. Leaves no trace. Like it was never there. Decide to head back to camp. Just hope no one saw me. Woke up next day. Still kinda shaken. Pack up camp. Decide to head home early. Plan to camp for a week and a half. No fucking way I'm staying another night. Too paranoid now. Reach car. Toss gear in the back and start the engine. Floored out of there. Entire drive home, I'm constantly checking rear view. Half expecting to see some military trucks. Get home and thank fuck. Home sweet home. Lock every door and window and draw the blinds. Still feel like they knew I was there. Kinda stupid looking back at it now. For a while, decide not to tell anyone. Only exception is my dad. Needs someone to know in case shit goes sideways. Tell him everything, and he advises me to lay low. Paranoia finally goes away. Start sharing the story at family get-togethers. Uncle believes me. Cousins now think we're both loons. I don't know how to green text, but I got a handful. I'll write them out. Maybe some of you will still be entertained. For starters, I was always into occultism. I had all sorts of books on the occult that the internet could provide. And also, I liked reading. Big into fantasy and stuff, so I studied almost all facets of occults. Grimoires, compendiums, hermetism, demonology, all that good stuff. Oddly enough, my life was never that thrilling in that regard. I just had one or two incidences that stood out, and that's it. Incident 1. Saturday afternoon. Hot, middle of the summer. I was like 19 or 20. I don't remember, it was a long time ago. I'm in my 30s now. I still lived with my father, and he was in the living room, and I was in my bedroom. I don't remember what I was doing exactly. In fact, I think I was doing nothing at all. I wasn't working that day, I was just chilling in my bed, so I decided to take a nap. So I just hugged my pillow and laid facing the ceiling. Wasn't planning on sleeping the whole day away, but a quick nap ain't gonna hurt. It was bright in my bedroom since it had a big window, and it was still in the afternoon. I didn't sleep well. It was hot, and I was sweating. I remember waking up trembling a few times. Like, when you're having a restless night with nightmares and keep waking up. In one of those moments that I remember waking up, as I was clutching my pillow on top of me, I remember a small hand reaching out from beyond the pillow. It was just me and my father in the house. There were no kids, and even so, that hand did not look like a kid's hand anyways. Needless to say, I was quite shook, but my reaction was the thing that baffled me the most. As much as I was shaken, I was also furious. I remember this experience as clear as day, and I distinctly remember the words I said. "You had better not be here when I wake up, or I will draw the seals, and I will say the words." Turns out, I had slept longer than I thought I would, as it always goes. It was early evening now. Not dark yet, but it was summer, so who knows. My heart took its time to go back to a normal pace after I got out of bed, and I remember going to the kitchen to drink some water. After that, I kinda forgot about it, and always chalked it up to some nightmare or some shit. Maybe it was just some sleep paralysis demon, or maybe it was just a syndrome. All I know is that it never happened again, and it went to the dark recess of my memory.